Good morning, everyone. Today we'll start with induction motor protection. Now, a large number of induction motors are being used in the industry, and even say the induction motor is truly the workhorse of the modern age. Even though the speed control of induction motor is not very simple and efficient, the reason for the motor's popularity is because of its ruggedness and simplicity. So, because of its ruggedness and the simplicity. So, this is the reason for its popularity. Now, however, with the introduction of the power electronic controllers, the case of speed torque control of induction motor is now comparable with that of the DC motor. That's why we are simply nowadays we are using the induction motor everywhere. So it comes under in the wide range of ratings from fractional horsepower motors used in the tools and the domestic appliances to the motors of the megawatt rating used for the boiler feed pump in thermal power stations. So so based on the classification, it is a broad classification is presented here in the table of the induction motor. For a small, that is fractional horsepower motors, then less than 1 kilowatt, then the medium greater than 50 horsepower and greater than 40 kilowatt, and the big, it is greater than 1500 horsepower and 1000 kilowatt. Now, however, it is not possible to make any general statements about the protection of induction motor, since the protection scheme actually depends upon the size of the motor. That is, size means that the protection scheme depends upon the size of the motor. Size means horsepower per kV kilowatt rating. Per kilowatt rating of the motor and the importance in the system and the importance in the system. So that is why induction motor protection has not been standardized to the extent that other protection scheme has been. However, whatever protection we may provide, all the motors, big or small, are subjected to the similar faults and abnormal operating conditions. So we can discuss that. Now, the various faults and the abnormal operating conditions in the in this induction machine. So we can discuss that. No, one more point is that the induction motor cannot be considered in isolation. So it cannot be considered in the isolation. On one side, it is connected to the supply. We will have the supply. So on the one side, it is connected to the supply, possibly through some kind of electronic controller. It is through the electronic controller. And on the other side, it is mechanically coupled to the load. So it is mechanically coupled to the load as shown here in the figure. So here we have the power electronic converter, and then we will have the induction motor, and then it is connected to the load. So the induction motor is subjected to the large number of faults and abnormal operating conditions. So shows here, it shows the abnormal operating conditions and the faults which are in the induction machine. That is the, here in this table we will have the fault and abnormal operating conditions of induction machine. Now, from this you will see that the first one, on the supply side, fault on the motor terminals, unbalanced supply voltage, single phasing, reduced supply voltage, and the reversal of the phases on the supply side. And on the motor side, phase faults, ground faults, and the interturn faults. And on the load side, we have the failure of the bearing, prolonged overload and the rotor jam. So this thing you have to take into consideration while considering any protection scheme for this induction machine. Now one more point, induction motor draws a very large starting current, as you know the fact that the starting current of the induction motor is very much large, and it is of the order of 6 to 8 times the full load current. If subjected to the direct online starting. So it is a very large starting current, and the amplitude of the starting current may be comparable to the this fault current, because it is 6 to 8 times the fault current. Therefore, the overcurrent protection provided to the motor must be able to discriminate between the genuine fault and the overcurrent due to the starting of the motor. So we must have the coordination between the starting characteristics of the motor and the overcurrent relay. So this coordination must be required. Now from this figure you will see the starting current. Here we will have the starting characteristics. It is superimposed on the thermal capability curve of the motor. This is the thermal capability curve of the motor, if you see. And from this figure it is observed that the overcurrent relay characteristics must be, this is the overcurrent relay characteristics. So it must be above the starting characteristics but below the thermal characteristics of the motor. So this will ensure that protective relay does not operate during the starting of the motor, but it will positively operate when the load exceeds the motor thermal capability. So this starting current is taken care of by that we have the starting current characteristics, and we will have this overcurrent relay characteristics and the thermal thermal capability characteristics. Now you will see that the overcurrent characteristics is between this starting characteristics and thermal capability characteristics. So this will ensure that protective relay does not operate during the starting of the motor, but positively it will operate when the load exceeds the this motor's thermal capability. Now let us discuss the electrical faults. First we discuss the fault on the motor terminals. Now the phase fault current at the terminals of the motor, it is you can say that it is considerably larger than any normal current, such as the starting current of any internal fault. So high set of instantaneous overcurrent relay is recommended for fast, reliable and inexpensive protection. So for the fault on the motor terminals, high set instantaneous overcurrent relay is recommended. High set instantaneous overcurrent relay. High set instantaneous overcurrent relay, it is recommended because the current at the terminals of the motor is larger than any normal current, such as starting current or any internal fault current. Now the second is the phase fault inside the motor. Now the protection against the phase fault as well as the ground fault can be provided either by using the fuses or overcurrent relay depending upon the voltage rating. So for the phase and the ground faults, for the phase and the ground faults, for the phase and the ground faults, we are using either the fuses, that is high rupturing capacity fuses, or we can use the overcurrent relays, that is we can use the overcurrent relays depending upon the voltage rating and the size of the motor. So it will depend upon the voltage rating and the size of the motor. and the size of the motor. So most motors are actually protected by the HRC fuses. Now figure here shows the HRC fuse protection of the induction motor. Here we will have the high voltage three-phase supply, and here the HRC high rupturing capacity fuses are basically used. So in this case, the fusing current should be greater than the starting current of the motor. So the fusing current should be greater than starting current of the motor, and fuse operating time should be less than the permissible logged rotor time of the motor. That is, fuse operating time of the fuse should be less than permissible logged rotor time of the motor. Permissible logged rotor time of the motor. So logged rotor time, what is this logged rotor time? Now the logged rotor time is actually it is the time for which the rotor can be safely stalled with the full supply voltage applied to the stator. So it is the time for which the rotor can be safely stalled with full supply voltage applied to the stator. Now, the big motors with the very high voltage, or you can say the high voltage motors, it will need to be provided with an overcurrent protection for increased accuracy. So, for voltage, if the voltage of the motor is high, then in that very case, the overcurrent protection is used for that very purpose, for increased accuracy. Now, for increased accuracy, now figure here shows the phase and the ground fault protection of the high voltage induction motor. As you have seen, we will have the phase fault relay and we will have the ground fault relay. So this is the overcurrent protection which is used for that very purpose. This also we have discussed in the overcurrent type also. It is similar whatever we have used in the three-phase system or transmission system. So the thermal capability characteristics of the motor should be kept in mind while applying this overcurrent protection. The overcurrent relay characteristics should be below the thermal capability characteristic as we have discussed. Now, in case of high impedance ground fault inside the motor, so this is for phase and the ground faults. Phase and ground faults. Now, for the high impedance ground fault inside the motor, for high impedance ground fault inside the motor, the fault current may happen to be less than the full load current. So such faults are difficult to detect using the overcurrent approach, and for that we are using the a current balance type of protection that we can discuss in this lecture also. However, in case of big motors whose kVA rating is more than half of the supply transformer kVA rating, in case of big motors, and whose kVA rating is more than half of the supply transformer kVA rating, the current for three-phase fault may be less than 5 times the current for the now in case of big motors whose kVA rating is more than half of the supply transformer kVA rating, the current for a three-phase fault, it can be less than the current for the three-phase fault. It is less than 5 times the current for locked rotor condition. In such a case, it is recommended to use the percentage differential protection as shown here. Percentage differential protection as shown here. So it is similar to whatever we have used in the other cases also in the transformer. So, however, if the motor kVA rating is less than, instead of that we will have the less than half of the supply transformer kVA rating. Definitely we are going for the overcurrent relay. So the main logic which is behind that, let us assume that the motor is connected to the supply transformer. Let us assume that motor is connected. We will have the transformer, and let us assume that the motor is connected to the supply transformer with an impedance of 8% impedance. The maximum fault current at the transformer secondary with an infinite source is given by the maximum fault current, the maximum fault current at the transformer secondary with an infinite source. So the maximum fault current at the transformer secondary with an infinite source is given by I three-phase is equals to 1 divided by 0.08, since we have assumed that source is infinite. Now, that is, we have used per unit. So we will have the 12.5 per unit of transformer base. Now the maximum motor starting current in this case is given by maximum motor starting current is equals to, let it be IL R, which is equals to 1 divided by impedance 0.08 plus XM, when in this case XM is the motor impedance. Now, in order that I three-phase divided by ILR should be greater than 5. So XM must be greater than 0.32 per unit of the transformer kVA base. Per unit of transformer kVA base. So, if the motor has the full voltage starting current of 6 times the full load, if motor has full volt starting current, that is full voltage starting current, which is 6 times the full load, in that very case XM is equals to 1 by 6, which is equal to 0.167 on the motor rated kVA base. Now, with a motor kVA of half the transformer kVA, with motor kVA of half the transformer kVA, with motor kVA of half the transformer kVA, in that very case, and that is an XM of 0.167 would be (0.333) on the transformer base, which is greater than 0.32, and this rule of thumb should only be applied when there is no appreciable deviation from the parameter assumed. So this rule can be applied when there is no appreciable deviations of parameters. Now let us discuss the ground faults inside the motor. Ground faults inside the motor. Now figure here shows an arrangement for detecting the high impedance ground faults. These are actually this is an arrangement for detecting the high impedance ground faults. High impedance ground faults. So high impedance ground faults, the three-phase line conductors carrying the current to the motor from the primary of the transformer, here it is shown. The secondary consists of the pickup coil wound on the core. So here we have the pickup coil which is wound on this particular core. It is the secondary. Now, when the motor is running normally with the instantaneous sum of all the currents equals to 0, that is IA, IB and IC equals to 0, there is no net flux in the core and the pickup coil does not have any voltage which is induced in it. So it is 0. Now consider the ground fault. Now under the ground fault condition as shown here, so consider now what happened? The 3 line currents do not sum up to 0 in that very case. So it will not sum up to 0, and there is the net primary MMF proportional to the fault current returning to the supply neutral through the fault path. So fault current returning to the supply neutral to the fault path, and there is thus the flux in the CT core because of that imbalance. So pickup coil has a voltage induced which can be sensed by this electronic circuitry, or pickup coil can be made to drive the operating coil of the sensitive relay. Now if an electronic circuit is used to sense the voltage developed by pickup coil, the current balance relay described can be made extremely sensitive and can detect earth fault currents down to few 10 of milliamperes. So very high sensitivity, however, is likely to cause some nuisance. So this is the ground fault inside the motor, how we can detect that. Now next is the interturn faults. Next is the interturn faults. So next is we will have the interturn faults. Now the interturn faults on the same phase are difficult to detect because they don't cause any appreciable change in the current drawn by the motor. So it cannot, there is no appreciable change in that. So the current drawn by the motor, and such faults it causes the hot spot. It causes the hot spot to develop, leading to the deterioration of the insulation. So it will cause the hot spots, which leads to the deterioration of insulation. So no specific protection against the interturn fault is needed for the most motor. However, in big motors it can be required. So embedded temperature detectors may be relied upon to provide the protection against that. So for the big motors, embedded temperature detectors can be used. Now, abnormal operating conditions from the supply side. Induction motor is subjected to many abnormal operating conditions as far as electric supply is concerned. In some cases, you will see the quick disconnection of the motor may be needed, and in other cases, only the alarm may be sounded for an operator to take corrective action or to be ready for the shutdown. Now, unbalanced supply voltage. Large induction motors are very sensitive to the unbalanced supply voltage supply. Because of this unbalanced supply voltage, we will have the negative sequence component which comes into picture because of the unbalance of the supply, which is actually very troublesome, and this is because the motor offers a very small impedance to the negative sequence current. So it offers a very less impedance negative sequence component, and the motor offers a very less impedance to the negative sequence currents, to the negative sequence current component. Now, in fact, you can say the negative sequence impedance is less than the positive sequence standstill impedance as shown here. Now in this case you will see a 4% negative sequence supply voltage causes more than 4% negative sequence supply voltage. It causes more than 25% negative sequence current to be drawn by the motor. So from this what you see, from this it is observed we will have the equivalent circuit while starting and the equivalent circuit while the negative sequence. Now this is the equivalent circuit while this starting. In this case you will see we have the inductance, resistance and the inductance, and then have the magnetizing branch. However, in this case, in case of the negative sequence, you will see this equivalent the value of the Z2 that is calculated is different from whatever we have calculated in case of this while starting. So we have to take into consideration the negative sequence equivalent circuit of the induction machine, and from this we will observe that the 4% negative sequence supply voltage, 4% of the negative sequence supply voltage it causes more than 24% of negative sequence current. Because in that very case we will have the slip is less, that is 0.01 in that very case, and for a negative sequence we have RR is equals to 2 minus S. However, for this during the normal operation or during the starting we will have the this rotor resistance is equals to RR divided by S, and S is 1 in that very case. So for a negative sequence voltage of the 4%, 4%, we will have the 24% of the negative sequence current as observed. Now, which is drawn from the motor. If the starting current of the motor is 6 times the full load current, even if the starting current of the motor is 6 times the full load current, and this causes the increased heating of the stator. So the stator will because of this large value of the current, it causes the increased heating of the stator, and the magnitude of the field due to the negative sequence rotate at the synchronous speed. Now, due to this negative sequence, it rotates at the synchronous speed minus S, that is field. Due to this synchronous speed, it rotates at the speed of minus that is S, or we can say minus S, which is in the opposite direction to that of the rotor, which is rotating at a speed of S, and S is slip in that very case. Now, which is slightly less than the synchronous speed. So this causes the current of F2 minus S. This causes the current of F2 minus S frequency, which is double the supply frequency, 2 times the supply frequency to be induced in the rotor circuit. To be induced in the rotor circuit. Now because of the skin effect, the rotor offers, due to the skin effect, the rotor offers 5 to 10 times its normal resistance. Rotor resistance is 5 to 10 times the normal resistance to this double frequency, currents and causing the excessive heating of the rotor. So, for the large motors, any unbalance in the supply needs to be detected as soon as possible and corrective action must be taken. So, for the large motors, any unbalance in the supply needs to be detected as early as possible and corrective action needs to be taken. Now, figure A shows a scheme for detecting the unbalanced supply voltage. How in this case you will see the negative sequence filter is there, then the over voltage relay is used to trip the circuit. So this scheme is used for that. However, there are certain situations where the negative sequence relay do not operate correctly. Now in that very case, for example, if there is an open circuit fault between the supply and the relay, so there is an open circuit fault like this one between the supply and the relay. So it is a situation where the negative sequence relay do not operate correctly. There is the open circuit between the supply and the relay as you have seen here, and then the relay measures the negative sequence voltage across the motor, which is substantial, and therefore the relay operates correctly. So in that very case, what is needs to be done in that very case, if there is an open circuit fault between the supply and the relay, then the relay measures the negative sequence voltage across the motor. That is, the negative sequence relay is there and it measures the negative sequence voltage across the motor, which is substantial, and the relay operates correctly, and the scheme shows here. So in that particular scenario, the relay measures the negative sequence voltage across the motor, which is substantial, and therefore relay operates correctly. However, there is one more situation. In this particular situation, if the open circuit is between the relay and the motor, then in that very case, then the negative sequence relay ends up measuring the negative sequence component of the supply voltage, and which is actually very small and does not cause the relay to pick up. So in that very case, here the scheme is shown, that is the negative sequence voltage relay fails to detect an open circuit between the relay and the motor. In that very case, if the open circuit is between the relay and the motor, the negative sequence relay, it ends up measuring the negative sequence component of the supply voltage, which is very small and does not cause the relay to pick up. Now, and for the positive detection of such faults, we need to detect the negative sequence components in the this line currents. So that is required in that very particular case. So for the positive detection of such faults, we need to detect the negative sequence component in the line currents, and which we explain. Now we explain under the heading the single phasing. So what is single phasing? A single phasing can occur because the non-closure of one pole of the three-phase contactor of the circuit breaker, fuse failure, are similar causes. So single phasing can occur because of the non-closure of one pole of three-phase contactor or circuit breaker if fuse failure or similar causes. So single phasing causes the negative sequence current to flow, and it causes the negative sequence current to flow. So the motor has limited ability to carry the negative sequence current because of the thermal limitations. So you know the single phasing causes the motor to develop the insufficient torque. It develops insufficient torque leading to the stalling. Torque leading to the stalling. And when it is stalling, in that very case, it will draw the excessive current and leads to the burnout. Current is increased, or it draws the excessive current. Which leads to the burnout unless the motor is tripped. So there is thermal limit to the amount of the negative sequence current that can be carried by the motor. The quantity that we have discussed, the I2 square T represents the energy liberated as the heat due to negative sequence current I2. So I2 equals to this I2 square square T equals to 40 is conventionally used as the thermal capability of the motor to carry the negative sequence current. So it is conventionally used, and this I2 square T represents the energy liberated as the heat due to the negative sequence currents I2. Now, figure here shows the characteristics of the relay for detecting the imbalance in the line currents. The relay consists of in this case, the relay consists of the two units. In this case, the relay consists of the two units. One unit balances IA against the IB, while the other balances IB against the IC. So when the current becomes sufficiently unbalanced, in that very case, the torque developed in one or both the units causing the relay to trip. And the relay can be set up to pick up when the negative sequence current I2 is equals to 5 to 30% of the full load current. Now, here we will have the characteristics of the relay for detecting the imbalance. The relay consists of the two units. One unit balances the IA against IB, and other unit, while the other unit balances the IB against the IA. And when the currents become sufficiently unbalanced, the torque developed in one or both the units causing the relay to trip. Now in this case, here we will have the current is balanced, so there is no need to trip. However, when the IB is less than IA or IB is greater than IA, definitely it will give the trip circuit. So this is used for this explanation. Now the other problem is the reduction in the supply voltage. Now the torque developed by an induction motor is proportional to, as you know, the fact that the torque developed is proportional to the square of the applied voltage. So in that very case, any small reduction in the voltage has a marked effect on the developed torque. So reduced torque may cause the motor to lose the speed because of the reduction in the torque. Then the speed would be, cause the motor to lose the speed would be reduced and current would be increased in that very case. So the large motor should be disconnected when the severe low voltage condition persists more than few seconds. So large motors must be disconnected. So under voltage relays may be used for protection against the reduced supply voltage. So for we can use the under voltage relays for that very purpose. Now next one is the reversal of the phases. Now when there is the reversal of phase sequence, possibly due to the reversal of the phases, the motor rotates in a direction opposite to that of the normal direction. So the rotation of the motor This previously this was the rotation, otherwise now this is the rotation of the motor. So in several applications, like you will see hoses and elevators, this is a serious issue. So in case of hose and the accelerators and hose and the elevators, this is actually a very serious issue, and in such situations a phase sequence detector, which is generally a part of under voltage, over voltage, or a negative phase sequence protection scheme. So phase sequence, so for that what we have to do, phase sequence detector which is actually a part of under voltage, over voltage, or negative phase sequence protection scheme. To trip the motor. Let us assess the abnormal operating conditions from the mechanical side. So first is the failure of the bearing and the rotor jam. So bearing failure or the rotor jam, it causes the excessive load torque on the motor. It actually causes the excessive load torque on the motor. It will cause the excessive load torque on the motor, and this is reflected in the increase of the stator current. So the stator current is increased in that very case. So in order to discriminate between the rotor jam and the other operating conditions that can also cause the overcurrent, a high current is not recognized as the jam condition unless the motor has reached its rated speed and the current is in excess of 20% of the full load, persisting for at least twice the locked rotor time setting. So what needs to be done to discriminate between the rotor jam, and this other operating conditions that can cause the overcurrent? The high current is not recognized as a jam condition. The high current is not recognized as jam condition unless the motor has reached its rated speed. The motor has reached its rated speed and the current is in excess of 20% of full load persisting for at least twice the locked rotor time setting. For at least 2 times the locked rotor time setting. So this principle is followed. Now, next is the overload. So thermal overload relays offer good protection against short, medium and long duration overload, but may not provide protection against the heavy overload. So thermal overload relays, it can provide the good protection against the thermal overload relays. It can provide the good protection against the short, medium and long duration overloads, but may not provide the protection against the heavy overloads. Now from this figure you will observe, so from this figure, as it is observed that the thermal overload relay provide good protection against the short, medium and long duration overloads. However, it will provide the inadequate protection, as you have seen, when the load is very much large. So inadequate protection is there. So this is the thermal capability curve, and this is the thermal overload relay. So it offers good protection against the short, medium and long duration overloads. However, from this graph you will see that the long time overcurrent relay offer good protection against the heavy overload. So this is the long term overcurrent relay. It provides the good protection against the heavy overloads, as you have seen from this time current, motor current characteristics. However, for this, if we use the combination of the long time induction overcurrent relay and thermal overcurrent relay, then it provides the complete thermal protection to the machine. So in this case, in this way, this overload relay can be used for the protection. That is, we use the combination of both the relays and to provide the adequate protection. Another relay is the resistance temperature detector relays. So it actually these relays operate from one or more this resistant temperature detector that monitor the temperature of the machine winding, motor, load bearings or the load. So it can monitor the temperature of this machine winding, motor, machine windings, then motor or load bearings. So they are usually applied to large motors of that is greater than or equals to 1500 horsepower and above. So figure here shows the resistance temperature detector relays, which is embedded in the machine connected to the we will have the Wheatstone bridge. The arms of the Wheatstone bridge are adjusted so that the bridge is balanced at the normal temperature. A sensitivity relay in the form of the contact making DC galvanometer may be connected as a detector in that very case. Now this RTD actually an excellent indicator of average winding temperature. However, it is influenced by the ambient temperature, ventilation conditions and recent loading history. So several type of this RTDs are available for use in temperature monitoring, namely for different temperature ranges. These are available in the market. Now one more relay is thermal replica relay, which is designed to replicate within the relay the operating unit, the heating characteristics of the machine. So it will actually act as a replica to replicate the heating characteristics of the machine. And when the current from the CT secondary passes through this particular relay, its time over current characteristics parallels with that of the machine capability curve at the moderate overload. Now the thermal replica relays, it is actually recommended when the temperature detectors are not available. So these are used when the temperature detectors are not available. So these relays are used when the temperature detectors are not available. Otherwise, we will have the this resistance temperature detector relays. It can be used. So replica relays are typically temperature compensated and operate in a fixed time at a given current, regardless of any ambient current variations as compared to this RTD. So although this characteristics is desirable for the condition, however, it also provides the under protection for the high motor ambient and over protection for the low motor ambient. So this type of relay can be used. However, it can be used only when the resistance temperature detectors are not available. Now the question arises. That what is the data required for designing the motor protection scheme? Data required for designing the motor protection scheme. So if you are designing the motor protection scheme on some algorithm, some data must be required. So what is the data required in that? So HP rating, that is the horsepower rating, supply voltage, full load current, continuous permissible continuous temperature rise, that is temperature, locked rotor current, then we will have maximum time with the locked rotor, permissible maximum time, accelerating time, and then we have the starting voltage. So this is the data which is required for designing the motor. So thank you very much. This is about the protection of the motor, that induction motor protection. In the next lecture we will start with the circuit breakers. Thank you.